I know, I understand. So, yeah, devotees, I already said prayer, so we are going to start now. Today we are going to discuss the Canto 1, Chapter 11, 10th verse. So I'm going to read the verse. Katam vayam nath chiro site tvayi prasanna drushtya khilatapasoshanam जीवे में ते सुंदरा हासशोभितम् अपश्यमाना वदनं मनोहरम् इति चोदिरिता वाचा प्रजानां भक्तवत्सलः शृण्वणो अनुग्रहं दृष्ट्या वितान्वान् प्राविशत्पूर्णम् वितानां प्रविशत्पुरं कथं वायं नाथ चिरोसिते त्वयि प्रसन्नदृष्ट्या किल तापशोषणं जीवे मे ते सुन्दराः सशोभितम् अपश्यमाना वदनं मनोहरम् इति चोदिरिता वाचा प्रजानां भक्तवत्सलः शृण्वनो अनुग्रहं दृष्ट्या वितावान् प्रविशत्पुरम् कथं वायं नाथ चिरोसिते त्वयि प्रसन्नदृष्ट्या किल तापशोषणं जीवे मे ते सुन्दराः सशोभितम् अपश्यमानवदनं मनोहरम् इति चोदिरिता वाचा प्रजानां भक्तवत्सलः शृण्वानो अनुग्रहं दृष्ट्या वितान्वान् प्रविशत्पुरम्. Anybody would like to repeat the verse? You can please do so.
Hare Krishna. Katham vayam nata chiroshite tvai prasanna drishtya kilata pasushanam jive mate sundaraha sashobhitam apasyamana vadanam manoharam iti chodirita vacha prajanam bhaktavatsalaha sranvano anugraham drishtya vitanvan pravisatpuram.
Thank you so much, Chandrasekhar Prabhu. Anyone else want to read? Okay, then we would go to the synonyms. Katham, how, vayam, we, natha, O Lord, chirosite, being abroad almost always, tvai, by you, prasanna, satisfaction, drishtva, by the glance, akhila, universal, tapa, miseries, soshanam, vanquishing, jivema, shall be able to live, shall be able to live, te, your, sundara, beautiful, hasa, smiling, shobhitam, decorated, apasyamanaha, without seeing, Vadanam, face, Manoharam, attractive, Iti, thus, Cha and Udiritaha, speaking, Vachaha, words, Prajanam, of the citizens, Bhaktavatsalaha, kind to the devotees, Shunvanaha, thus learning, Anugraham, kindness, Drishtya, by glances, Vitanvan, distributing, Pravishat, entered, Puram, Dwarakapuri. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. O Master, if you live abroad all the time, then we cannot look at your attractive face, whose smiles vanquish all our sufferings. How can we exist without your presence? Upon hearing their speeches, the Lord, who is very kind to citizens and the devotees, entered the city of Baraka and acknowledged all their greetings by casting his transcendental glance over them. Purport. Lord Krishna's attraction is so powerful that once being attracted by him, one cannot tolerate separation from him. Why is this so? Because we are all eternally related with him. as the sun rays are eternally related with the sun disk. The sun rays are molecular parts of the solar radiation, that the sun rays and the sun cannot be separated. The separation by the cloud is temporary and artificial, and as soon as the cloud is cleared, the sun rays again display their natural effulgence in the presence of the sun. Similarly, the living entities who are molecular parts of the whole spirit are separated from the Lord by artificial covering of Maya, illusory energy. This illusory energy or the curtain of Maya has to be removed, and when it is so done, the living entity can see the Lord face to face, and all his miseries are at once removed. Every one of us wants to remove the miseries of life, but we do not know how to do it. The solution is given here, and it rests on us to assimilate it or not. So, this chapter actually itself is Krishna entering into Dwaraka after some period of time. And when Krishna entered Dwaraka, all the citizens, the inhabitants of Dwaraka were so happy to see the Lord after a long time, their beloved Lord, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and they were expressing their, love for Sri Krishna in many different ways, like offering him presentations, gifts, and the words of glorification. They were so happy. And this verse, I think, is the last verse where they stop their glorification by at last saying that, Krishna, if you go abroad, we cannot, look at your attractive face, and how can we, exist without your presence? So they have expressed their love in this way to Krishna, and finally, after hearing all those, accepting their presentations and words of love for Krishna, Krishna acknowledges their love for him, and he actually puts his transcendental glance on citizens of Dwarakapuri. They're very fortunate basically to see Krishna face to face, and also get the glance of Krishna on them. For us it is very hard basically. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport is very, very nicely explaining how, one jiva gets attracted to Krishna. And basically, this verse is divided into three sections. I want to discuss three sections with all of you. The first section is basically, it is mentioned, Lord Krishna's attraction is so powerful that once being attracted by him, one cannot tolerate separation from him. I'm not going to take the toleration part, as I have discussed previously in so many verses about devotees' separation for Krishna. So now the question is how we get attracted to Krishna, basically. And that is one section, how we get attracted to Krishna, and what are the examples given in Srimad Bhagavatam, how different devotees got attracted to Krishna for different reasons. And the next section is, why do in fact we get attracted to Krishna? Why? What would be the reason for us to get attracted to Krishna? That is another section. And the last section, what I wanted to share with you all is that how to in fact, we meditate on the limbs of the body of the Supreme Lord. So now when we come to the first section, how do we get attracted to Krishna? Once upon a time, 5,500 years back, Krishna was present on this earthly planet, and he was visible to everyone, even to devotees and non-devotees. Of course, non-devotees, they, because of their envious nature towards Krishna, they didn't get attracted to Krishna, but devotees, they were attracted to Krishna so much, so that they got, by seeing the face of the Lord, in person, and by hearing about him, his glories, and by enjoying his pastimes, leelas, they got so much attracted to Krishna. So how the devotees got attracted to Krishna once upon a time when he was on the earthly planet is mentioned in one of the beautiful verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, first chapter, 6 and 7 verses. We are going to read this and understand this very beautiful translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the reservoir of all beauty. All beautiful things emanate from him, and his personal form is so attractive that it steals the eyes away from all other objects, which then seem devoid of beauty in comparison to him. So when we see Krishna, nothing looks beautiful for us, because his beauty excels everything else in this material world. When Lord Krishna was on the earth, he attracted the eyes of all the people when Krishna spoke, his words attracted the minds of all who remembered him. By seeing the footsteps of Lord Krishna, people became attracted to him, and thus they wanted to offer their bodily activities to the Lord as his followers. So, how they got attracted? By seeing the form of the Lord, by listening to his words, and by seeing the lotus feet of the Lord, they got attracted to Krishna at that particular time. Okay, in this way, Krishna very easily spread all his glories, which are sung throughout the whole world by the most sublime and essential Vedic verses. So Krishna has spread, when he was on this planet, he spread his glories by doing a lot of pastimes. Lord Krishna considered that simply by hearing and chanting those glories, conditioned souls born in the future would cross beyond the darkness of ignorance. Being satisfied with this arrangement, he left for his desired destination. So what was the arrangement made by the Lord? He left behind all his pastimes, leelas, so that people could get attracted by hearing those pastimes and come out of their ignorance, darkness of ignorance, come out of this material world and go back to him. So when Krishna left this world, he has left us the Srimad Bhagavatam, So Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but the literary incarnation of Krishna. So now I'm closing this and sorry. Yeah. So now we understand how people got attracted when he was on the earthly planet. But now that we are in Kali Yuga, we can't see Krishna face to face. Krishna is not in front of us. How much ever we chant the glories of Krishna, and how much ever we chant and how much ever we listen to the descriptions, it's very because of our offenses towards chanting and inattentiveness and all these things doesn't allow us to actually see Krishna. So how do we then get attracted to Krishna if Krishna is not present with us? So there are two ways mentioned basically. Before going to that, basically I wanted to give some examples. There are two ways to understand Krishna in the Kali Yuga: seeing him in the deity form as Krishna, Radha Krishna deity form, or if Krishna is not available, then Krishna appeared as a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So by seeing the deity form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can get attracted to Krishna by seeing his form. And by hearing about his descriptions from Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many areas where actually Krishna's form is so beautifully described in Srimad Bhagavatam, and also from different scriptures, we can actually, by hearing that, we can get attracted to Krishna. And there are examples, Srimad Bhagavatam, the devotees who got attracted to Krishna just by hearing about him, and they glorified the Lord and they have given their heart and they get so much attracted to Krishna. But before discussing those examples from Srimad Bhagavatam, the devotees, I want to go to the other section, which is very, very important to discuss and understand. I will go to the next session first, and later I will discuss about those devotees, give the examples of those devotees. So next section is actually, why do we get attracted to Krishna? Okay, why do we get attracted to Krishna? There are general reasons, there are philosophical reasons. So before going to the philosophical understanding of why do we get attracted to Krishna, I just want to give the general reasons. What are the general reasons? Krishna, as his name denotes, is all attractive, basically. Everything about Krishna is so sweet and so attractive. Not only Krishna's name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, his activities, everything is so beautiful, basically. So, and there are verses given in the Srimad Bhagavatam about his form. So we are going to give a little touch to those little bit of verses, few verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures. So there is a wonderful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam where there is mentioned where how does Krishna look like when he actually enters Vrindavan. This is from 10th canto, 21st chapter, 5th verse. Barahapidam natavaravu karnayo karnikara Vibradvasaha Kanakakapisham Vaijayantim Chamalam Randranveno Radhara Sudhaya Purayan Gopavrunder Vrundaranyam Sapadaramanam Pravishad Gita Kirti. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnikara flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, In the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers, and he entered the forest of Vrindavana, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. Usually, this is a scene in Vrindavan. Krishna comes with all these paraphernalia, and actually, all the gopis, cover gopis and gopas, they will sing the glories of the Lord. Okay, so and in Brahma Samhita, Sri Brahma Samhita, also it is mentioned in one of the beautiful verses about the form of the Lord and the description of the form of the Lord. Venum Panmantam Ravinda Dalayakaksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundaragam Kandarpa Kamaniya Visesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with a figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. A very beautiful verse. And I'm going to quote another, song where the spiritual leader of a different Sampradaya, Vallabhacharya, talked about Krishna's beauty. Just little bit, few verses I'm going to, sing. Adharam madhuram, Krishna's lips are so beautiful. Vadanam madhuram, Krishna's face is so beautiful. Nayanam madhuram, his eyes are so beautiful. Hasitam madhuram, his smile is so beautiful. Hrudayam madhuram, his heart is so beautiful. Gamanam madhuram, his walk, stylish walk, not like how we walk, but he walks in a dancing pose. Krishna walks in a dancing pose. So his stylish work is so beautiful. Madhuradhipate Akhilam Madhuram. Everything related to Krishna is so beautiful. Venur Madhura, Krishna's flute is so beautiful. Renur Madhura, the dust of his lotus feet is so beautiful. Panir Madhura, his hands are so beautiful. Pada Madhura, his feet is so beautiful. Nutyam Madhuram, his dance is so beautiful. Sakhyam Madhuram, his friendship is so beautiful. Madhuradhipate Akhilam Madhuram. Everything related to Krishna is so beautiful. Gunja Madhura. Gunjamala is so sweet. Mala Madhura. His flower garland is so sweet. Yamuna Madhura. Where he usually does his pastimes. The Yamuna river is so beautiful. Vichi Madhura. The ripples of the water of Yamuna is so beautiful. Salitam Salilam Madhuram. The water of Yamuna is so beautiful. Kamalam Madhuram, the lotus flower in the Yamuna river is so beautiful. Madhuradhipate Akhilam Madhuram. Everything related to Krishna is so beautiful. Gopi Madhura. Gopis are so beautiful. Leela Madhura. His Leela is so important, so beautiful. Gopa Madhura. Covered boys are so beautiful. Kavo Madhura. All the cows are so beautiful. So by this song we can understand this is the revelation of the acharyas basically. So Madhuradhipate Akhilam Madhuram. So everything related to Krishna is so beautiful. So a person who comes into contact with Krishna, it's natural for him to get attracted to Krishna. But these are general reasons. But what is the philosophical reason given by our Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas and Krishna by himself is very, very important. As Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, we are eternally related with him. He has a nice analogy given by Srila Prabhupada in the purport that regarding sun and sun rays, how they cannot be separated, even though the cloud comes in between as an interruption, between the sun and the sun rays for a temporary period of time. Like that, in the same way, when we come to this material world, there is a curtain of Maya between us and Krishna. But the curtain of Maya is very, very temporary, and it cannot actually separate Krishna from us. But when we come out, when we had some kind of realization that we are part and parcel of Krishna, then the curtain goes, and then we can again unite with Krishna. So while dealing with this, basically it is clearly mentioned how we are part and parcel of Krishna is in a Bhagavad Gita chapter. Now we will have a little philosophy, but even though it is philosophy, it is so beautiful to understand. So in Krishna Bhagavad Gita 15.7, he says that the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind also. So basically here in the last paragraph, I'm going to read this. This is so beautifully mentioned about, the words Mame Vamshaha, fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. No, it's not like that. We have already understood in the second chapter that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces. This fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like a matter which can be cut into pieces and joined together again. That conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word Sanatana is eternal. The fragmental portion is eternal. It is also stated in the beginning of the second chapter that in each and every individual body of the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is present. So now we have to understand that we are not this body, of course. We are the soul, the fragmental part of the Bhagavans, is a present as a spirit soul in us, in the body. So that fragmental portion, which when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. So we are basically, part amsha of the Supreme Lord. That little bit of amsha is a spirit soul, and takes a material body basically. So when we come out of this material conception of life and we get rid of this material body, then again it unites with Krishna in the spiritual world, and enjoys his association, enjoys and participates in the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Okay, so just as however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is qualitatively one with the Lord, just as the parts and parcels of gold are also gold. So now, now we have seen how do we understand actually that we are part and parcel of Krishna, and we can understand that with very good example given in the Brahma Vimochana Lila chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam from 10th canto. So everybody of you know that the Brahma Vimochana Lila, how Brahma got bewildered by he wants to test Krishna, and he had stolen the cows and the covered boys for 1 year, and Krishna at that particular time expanded as the cows and also the covered boys. So when Krishna, actually there was a wonderful discussion between the Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 13th and 14th chapters. So then Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami a very wonderful question. Oh Brahman, how is it possible that the gopis, elderly gopis, have so much affection for Krishna other than their own children? So that's what he asked, a very wonderful question. And the gopis, in fact, had so much of love Krishna other than their own children. How is it possible? So by reading little bit of verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, starting with 13th chapter, we can understand the philosophy also, and we can connect it actually. So this is 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam and 13th verse. So we are going to read 25 verse 3. Previously, from the beginning, when the very beginning, the gopis had motherly affection for Krishna. It's natural. Indeed, their affection for Krishna exceeded even their affection for their own sons. So it's they have more love for Krishna than their own children. So in displaying their affection, they had thus distinguished between Krishna and their sons, but now that distinction disappeared. This is after the past time. I'm not going to read the past time. This is after the past time. What happened is, previously they had distinction Distinction, what kind of distinction? Actually, we get surprised to hear that distinction. It's not that they have more love for their children than the Krishna. No, it's not like that. In the material world, usually it happens like that. It is given in the purport also. But when Krishna appears, actually they had more love for Krishna than their own children. So they had distinction that they are partial to Krishna because they have more love for Krishna. Now that Krishna has become their own son, that distinction is gone because they love anyway Krishna, and Krishna has now become their son. So they have an extra, their affection even more increased for Krishna. So in the purport, the distinction between one's own son and another son is not unnatural. Many elderly women have motherly affection for the sons of others. They observe distinctions, however, between those other sons and their own. But now the elderly gopis could not distinguish between their own sons and Krishna, for since their own sons had been taken away by Brahma, Krishna had expanded as their sons. Therefore, extra affection for their sons, who were now Krishna himself, was due to bewilderment resembling that of Brahma. Even though Srila Prabhupada is saying that the bewilderment resembling that of Krishna, but Brahma's bewilderment is something negative to Krishna. He wants to test Krishna, and he went a little bit negative to Krishna. But actually, the bewilderment of gopis, elderly gopis, is because both of are actually covered with the Yogamaya of Krishna, but this is a positive bewilderment because they don't know that Krishna has expanded as their sons, but they are loving more and more day by day. Their love for Krishna is increasing because they have enjoyed that kind of love for 1 year. So every day there is some increment of love and affection for Krishna, so they're enjoying so thoroughly with Krishna. Although the inhabitants of Rajabhumi, the covered men and covered women, previously had more affection for Krishna than for their own children, now for 1 year, their affection for their own sons continuously increased, for Krishna had now become their sons. There is no limit to the increment of their affection for their sons, who were now Krishna. Every day they found new inspiration for loving their children as much as they loved Krishna. So they were totally transcendental, ecstatic in taking care of Krishna, feeding him and giving him bath, and talking to him and taking him on their lap. So ecstatic they were. How fortunate. So in this way, the Lord Krishna, having himself become the covered boys and groups of cows, maintained himself by himself. So in the purport is mentioned, everything was Krishna. The cows, the covered boys, and their maintainer himself were all Krishna. In other words, Krishna expanded himself in varieties of cows and covered boys and continued his pastimes uninterrupted for 1 year. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's expansion is situated in everyone's heart as a super soul. See, this point we have to understand here. We all have Krishna's expansion in our heart as a super soul, Paramatma, right? But here, similarly, instead of expanding himself as a super soul, usually he expands in the living entities as a Paramatma, but he didn't expand here as a super soul in the heart of living entity, but he expanded himself as a portion of the cows and covered boys for 1 continuous year. That means that Krishna came personally. He expanded as a cows and the covered boys. So they were enjoying this. Now we are going to go to another section, the next chapter. We are going to understand where actually the 10th canto, 14th chapter, 49th verse, where Sukadeva Goswami put a question to, Parikshit Maharaj put a question to Sukadeva Goswami. Oh Brahmana, how could the covered women have developed for Krishna, someone else's son, such unprecedented pure love they never felt even for their own children? Please explain this. Because the reason why this is getting connected to that one, why actually we get attracted to Krishna so much, so that we forget ourselves and we would start loving Krishna more than ourselves, basically. So this discussion gives us some view on this. Sukadeva Goswami says, "O king, for every created being, the dearmost thing is certainly his own self. The dearness of everything else, children, wealth, and so on, is due to only to dearness to the self. See, we love ourselves so much because we love ourselves so much. We love which is related to our body and the relations, husband, children, and everyone else. Because we love ourselves, we love them also who are related to us. Then, for this reason, O best of the kings, the embodied soul is self-centered. So we are definitely self-centered. He is more attached to his own body and self than to his so-called possessions like children, wealth, and home. Why it is mentioned we are so much attached to ourselves than our relatives, family members? Because suppose if we have put a coat, jacket, and we went somewhere else. So some fire, attacked us, like, then it started burning our jacket or something like that. Then what do? Actually, we take out the jacket, right? So basically, if I'm sitting here in my room and fire comes around me, what do I think actually? Oh, how do I get out of the fire? Do I actually think about my husband and my children? And no, first thought comes about me only, right? So basically, how do we escape from this fire? That's what we always want to protect ourselves first. So that is why we are called self-centered. And indeed, for persons who think the body is the self, oh best of the kings, those things whose importance lies only in the relationship to the body are never as dear as the body itself. So this is talking about the materialistic people who think that the body is himself. Then nothing is important dear to them more than their own body, basically. Okay, if a person comes to the stage of considering the body mine instead of me, so there is a little bit of change here. We are thinking that the body is mine instead of me. That means that he started actually distinguishing between the body and the self. That is little bit started actually, because when a person, he will certainly not consider the body as dear to his own self. Then he realizes and he thinks that, okay, body, because when we become old, this happens. The body is going to go, but we are still active. Then we think that, oh, because of the body, we have to leave this body actually. Then there is a slight kind of differentiation comes. Then more than the body, they feel the soul, the atma itself is very, very important. And now now we are going to 50. So yeah, now that the question comes, so a person who is in Krishna consciousness, basically, how does he think is given in this purport by Srila Prabhupada? Very, very important. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text 162, Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse as follows. Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami why Krishna was so beloved by the residents of Vrindavana, who loved him even more than their own offspring or life itself. At that time, Sukadeva Goswami replied that everyone's Atma or soul is very, very dear, especially to all living entities who have accepted material bodies. So our Atma is very important for us. However, that Atma, the spirit soul, is a part and parcel of Krishna. For this reason, Krishna is very dear to every living entity. See, now the understanding is, now that we know, a Krishna conscious person, a devotee, understands that his very existence is with the existence of Krishna. He doesn't have any separate existence other than his existence with Krishna. He understands that, and his spirit, he realizes that he is not this body, he's a spirit soul, and the spirit soul is connected to Krishna. He's a amsha of Krishna, he's a part and parcel of Krishna, as we have read in Bhagavad Gita 15.7 just now, little few minutes ago. We are part and parcel of Krishna. That means this Krishna is everything for us. We don't have any separate existence, from Krishna. So in that case, how do a Krishna conscious devotee feel? They feel that more than their own selves, basically, what to speak of actually their relatives, body related relationships and all these things. They feel that more than themselves, the Krishna is important for them. So Krishna is important. So they work for the pleasure of Krishna, basically. Their understanding actually is a matured understanding that they are part and parcel of Krishna. They are to be enjoyed by Krishna. And when this kind of realization comes, then we automatically love ourselves, love Krishna more than actually ourselves. So this is very beautifully explained here. So this is what the right understanding. Why do we get attracted to Krishna more than ourselves? Because we are eternally connected to Krishna. Sanatana word used in that 15.7, right? Mamai Vamsha. So this is not temporary or something like this. Eternally we are connected to Krishna and we are Amsa of Krishna. Okay. Now, what is our next section is how we can, how the devotees in the Srimad Bhagavatam got attracted to Krishna, by hearing them. I can take two examples. One is Rukmini Devi. This I'll close. So yeah, so Rukmini Devi is such a beautiful woman and damsel of expansion of Vrindavana Chandravali, and she got actually she heard about Krishna in her life and she got so much attracted, and she has given her heart to Krishna, and she has sent a letter to Krishna through one of the Brahmanas, and she expressed her heart to Krishna. So we are going to read a little bit of few verses. It's a beautiful poetry written by Rukmini Devi, and how she adores Krishna. Hearing of the beauty and prowess and transcendental character and opulence of Mukunda from visitors to the palace who sang his praises, Rukmini decided that he would be the perfect husband for her. See, just by hearing his transcendental character, prowess, and opulence of Mukunda from visitors to the palace, whoever visits, they just glorify. And just by hearing Krishna, she has decided that he would be the perfect husband for us. And now we can go to 37th verse directly, where the letter started, and how Rukmini expressed her love for Krishna. Just by hearing, she gets so much of understanding about Krishna. So Rukmini said in her letter, "O beauty of the worlds, having heard of your qualities." So we can also develop by hearing about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam this kind of love for Krishna. Nothing is impossible, which enter the ears of those who hear and remove their bodily distress, and having also heard of your beauty, which fulfills all the visual desires of those who see, I have fixed my shameless mind upon you, O Krishna. O Mukunda, you are equal only to yourself in lineage, character, beauty, knowledge, youthfulness, wealth, and influence. O lion among men, you delight the minds of all mankind. What aristocratic, sober-minded, and marriageable girl of a good family would not choose you as her husband when the proper time has come? Therefore, my dear Lord, I have chosen you as my husband, and I surrender myself to you. Please come swiftly, O Almighty One, and make me your wife. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, let Sishupala never touch the hero's portion like a jackal stealing the property of a lion, because Rukmi, his brother, wanted her to get married to Sishupala, right? So that's why she's saying to Krishna, if I have sufficiently worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead by pious works, sacrifices, charity, rituals, and vows, and also by worshipping the demigods, Brahmanas, and Gurus, that then may Gadagraja come and take my hand, and not Damogosha's son or anyone else. So now go to the 43 verse. O lotus-eyed one, great souls like Lord Shiva hanker to bathe in the dust of your lotus feet and thereby destroy their ignorance. If I cannot obtain your mercy, I shall simply give up my vital force, which will have become weak from the severe penances I will perform. Then, after hundreds of lifetimes of endeavor, I may obtain your mercy. See how greedy she is to uh, get the Lord, right. So this is a very wonderful inspiration for all of us. We should be, she wanted to even die, Krishna doesn't come and take her. So she wanted Krishna to come and take her. This is what her mood. So by seeing her mood, we can also develop such kind of affection for Krishna. So now we will go to another example. When Krishna and Balarama went to forest along with the covered boys and covered boys. After they have spent some time in the forest, covered boys they felt hungry, and they came to Krishna and Balarama and said that we are hungry, we need some food. Then Krishna asked them to go to a nearby place where some Brahmanas are performing some yajna there, and the covered boys went over there and they requested for some food to the Brahmanas, and but Brahmanas are so ignorant. Basically, they, even though they are doing some austerity and so much of big yajna, but they still don't have the understanding of Krishna consciousness or Krishna supremacy. They don't understand, so they just scolded them, and they got so disappointed, and they went back to Krishna. And Krishna didn't feel it. Krishna told them that don't feel sad. Now this time you go to the wives of the Brahmanas who are cooking for the yajna, and they are very, very nice, and they're my devotees. So please go there and ask them for the food, and they would give you happily. Then they went to the wives of the Brahmanas. Now this translation is saying that the wives of the Brahmanas were always eager to see Krishna, for their minds had been enchanted by descriptions of him. See how they haven't seen Krishna yet, but they developed so much of love for Krishna just by hearing the enchanted past descriptions of him. Thus, as soon as they heard that he had come, they became very excited. 21. Although their husbands, brothers, sons, and other relatives try to forbid them from going, their hope of seeing Krishna uh, cultivated by extensive hearing of his transcendental qualities won out. So I think we can follow this, right? Their hope for seeing Krishna cultivated by how it was cultivated by extensive hearing, of his transcendental qualities. So we will also try to hear, his transcendental qualities and develop such kind of love for Krishna. It won actually. So along the river Yamuna, within a garden decorated with the birds of Ashoka trees, they caught sight of him strolling along in the company of the cowherd boys and his elder brother Balarama. Finally, they met with Krishna. His complexion, the beautiful form of Krishna is described here. His complexion was dark blue and his garment golden, wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, sprigs of flower birds, and a garland of forest flowers and leaves. He was dressed just like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon the shoulder of a friend and with the other twirled a lotus. Lilies graced his ears. His hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus like face was smiling. O ruler of men, for a very long time, those Brahmana ladies had heard about Krishna. Again, there is a discussion between Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami, right? Parikshit Maharaj. So he was mentioning that for a very long time, those Brahmana ladies had heard about Krishna. So we are also actually doing the same thing. Every day we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam and hearing about Krishna. And definitely at some point of time, we would also develop this kind of love and affection for Krishna. Krishna, their beloved, and his glories had become the constant ornaments of their ears. See, very, very actually mouth-watering when we read these verses, because very beautiful description, right? When we hear constantly about Krishna and his glories, then his glories become the constant ornaments of our ears. So that means that our ears are decorated with the glories of Krishna. Indeed, their minds were always absorbed in him. Through the apertures of their eyes, they now forced him to enter within their heart. And then they embraced him within for a very long time. In this way, they finally gave up a pain of separation from him, just as sages give up the variety of false ego by embracing their innermost consciousness. So this is what, and just by hearing about Krishna's descriptions, his face, his forms, his activities, his qualities, how do the devotees get attracted? In the same way, we will also try reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can get attracted to Krishna. Now, actually, how do we? The last section I'm going to go now. We have 9 minutes. The last section I'm going to read. When we see Krishna, basically either in the deity form or in person, at some point of time, we don't know, with all your sadhana, you might be able to see Krishna face to face, but so how do, when you see Krishna, how in fact you meditate on Krishna? It is mentioned in the very beautiful descriptions between the discussion between Lord Kapila Dev and his mother Devahuti when he was explaining about the devotional service. He is saying that the devotee should first concentrate. Of course, later verses he used yogi, but it's we can consider it as a devotee. The devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of their beautiful ruby nails resembles the orb of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. So first we have to focus on the lotus feet of the Lord. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that wash the Lord's lotus feet. Everybody know, right, how Ganga appeared on this earth, because when Vamandev came, he pierced the layers of the universe. Then the Ganges water came from there, from the lotus feet of the Lord. It, traveled to earth. So then Lord Krishna was requested, Shiva was requested by Bhrigumuni that, he could bear that Ganga on his head. So, and that is what it is mentioned here. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. So always it is good to remember his lotus feet and first meditate on his lotus feet. One should therefore meditate on the Lord's lotus feet for a very long time. Okay, next. The yogi should fix his in heart the activities of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, who is worshipped by all demigods and is the mother of the Supreme Person Brahma. She can always be found massaging the legs and thighs of the transcendental Lord very carefully, serving him in this way. So Lakshmi does that. Next, the yogi should fix his mind in meditation on the personality of Godhead's thighs. Next goes to thighs. The store after the feet, thighs. The storehouse of all the energy is the thighs of the Lord. The Lord's thighs are whitish blue, like the luster of the linseed flower, and appear most graceful when the Lord is carried on the shoulders of Garuda. Also, the yogi should contemplate his rounded hips, which are encircled by a girdle that rests on the exquisite yellow silk cloth that extends down to his ankles. So, thighs and then rounded hips. The yogi should then meditate on his moon-like navel in the center of his abdomen. From his navel, which is the foundation of the entire universe, sprang the lotus stem containing all the different planetary systems. Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. The lotus is the residence of Brahma, the first created being. In the same way, the yogi should concentrate his mind on the Lord's nipples, which resembles a pair of most exquisite emeralds and which appear whitish because of the rays of the milk white pearl necklaces adorning his chest, navel, and then nipples of the chest. The yogi should then meditate on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the abode of Goddess of Mahalakshmi. Mahalakshmi resides in the heart of Krishna. The Lord's chest is the source of all transcendental pleasure for the mind and full satisfaction for the eyes. The yogi should then imprint on his mind the neck of the Personality of Godhead, who is adorned by the entire universe. So after that, neck. The neck of the Lord serves to enhance the beauty of the Kaustubha gem which hangs on his chest. The yogi should further meditate upon the Lord's four arms, which are the source of all powers of the demigods who control the various functions of material nature. Then the yogi should concentrate on the polished ornaments which were burnished by Mount Mandara as it revolved. He should also duly contemplate the Lord's discus, the Sudarshana Chakra, which contains 1,000 spokes and a dazzling luster, as well as the conch, which looks like a swan in his lotus palm. The yogi should meditate upon the club, which is named Kaumudiki and is very dear to him. This club smashes the demons who are always inimical soldiers and is smeared with their blood. One should also concentrate on the nice garland on the neck of the Lord, which is always surrounded by bumblebees with their nice buzzing sound. And one should meditate upon the pearl necklace on the Lord's neck, which is considered to represent the pure living entities who are always engaged in his service. The yogi should then meditate on the lotus-like countenance of the Lord. Now, finally, now the face has come now. Who presents his different forms in this world out of compassion for the anxious devotees. His nose is prominent and his crystal clear cheeks are illuminated by the oscillation of his glittering alligator-shaped earrings. The yogi then meditates upon the beautiful face of the Lord, which is adorned with curly hair and decorated by lotus-like eyes and dancing eyebrows. A lotus surrounded by swarming bees and a pair of swimming fish would be put to shame by its elegance. The yogi should contemplate with full devotion the compassionate glances frequently cast by the Lord's eyes, for they soothe the most fearful threefold agonies of his devotees. His glances, accompanied by loving smiles, are full of abundant grace. So now that we have heard the verse today, it is mentioned, right? Krishna acknowledges the love of the Hastinapura Dwarkavasis, and he put his transcendent glance over him. So now it is here mentioned how important the Lord's glance is. The yogi should meditate with full devotion the compassionate glances frequently cast by the Lord's eyes, for they soothe the most fearful threefold agonies of it. Once the Lord sees us, all sees compassionate glance on us, all our threefold miseries of this world are gone completely. His glances, accompanied by loving smiles, are full of abundant grace. So hope a yogi should similarly meditate on the most benevolent smile of Lord Sri Hari, a smile which, for all those who bow to him, drives away the ocean of tears caused by intense grief. The yogi should also meditate on the Lord's arched eyebrows, which are manifested by his internal potency in order to charm the sex god for the good of the sages. So eyebrows and smile of the Lord Sri Hari. With a devotion steeped in love and affection, a devotee I'm using the word here, devotee. The devotee should meditate within the core of his heart upon the laughter of Lord Vishnu. The laughter of Vishnu is so captivating that it can be easily meditated upon. When the Supreme Lord is laughing, one can see his small teeth, which resemble jasmine birds rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi should no longer desire to see anything else. So once we see the form of the Lord, all our desires, by following this course, by the yogi gradually develops pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari. In the course of his progress in devotional service, the hairs on the body stand erect through excessive joy. It is constantly bathed in a stream of tears occasioned by intense love. Gradually, even the mind, which he used as a means to attract the Lord, so one attracts to fish to a hook, withdraws from material activity. So, dear devotees, this is what we have to meditate on the form of the Lord. Of course, a yogi, a devotee could see the form of the Lord and he starts meditating on the form of the Lord. But for us, actually, we are not able to see the Lord face to face. So for us, at least, by seeing the deities in, fixing the deity form in our mind, basically, we can, focus and meditate upon the form of the Lord, not only on the form of the Lord, his the activities, his pastimes, his qualities, everything. I know we can focus on that, and we can get the mercy of the Lord. So thank you so much, and I'm going to end my sharing today discussion. Thank you so much, everyone. Hare Krishna. We can stop here. Jai Sachindra Prabhu is not here today. No problem. Yeah. We'll stop the video.
Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful, wonderful class. I really like how you split the entire class into three sections, like why is Krishna all attractive? Then you gave examples of devotees who got attracted to Krishna just by hearing about Krishna, and then how in this Kali Yuga we get attracted to Krishna. And so many different verses, so many beautiful examples from Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you so much, Mataji, again.
Thank you so much, Anita. Thank you so much for your encouragement. I appreciate. Thank you so much.
Aisha, thank you so much for the amazing class, Mataji. Very beautifully, took so many references from Srimad Bhagavatam and connected all the dots. Thank you so much, Mataji, for the wonderful class, as always.
Thank you so much for, as always, you encourage us, Prabhu. Even though we are not qualified, but you still come forward to encourage, us. Thank you for that, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your kindness and compassion. Thank you. Thank you also, the devotees who are keeping. Vinil Mataji. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful lecture.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Are there anyone has any questions, any comments you would like to make?
Yeah, Naratamilas Prabhu is here, so I don't get scared. You can
No. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you, husband Mataji, once again for the amazing class, Mataji. And so please join us for Sunday feast today at 11:30. Please come early if you wish to. So yeah, thank you so much. Hare Krishna, we'll see you there. परिताना पावने वैष्णवी अंतुकटे वैष्णव की जाए यथा श्री भागवतम की जाए श्री प्रभुपाद की जाए हरे कृष्णा।